Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast, Conversations with My Friends in AI. My name is Claire Longo, and I'm here today with an amazing guest on the show, Sonam. I want to pass it over to you. Go ahead and give us a little bit of your background. I know today our topic, we're going to be talking about creative strategies and the job searching challenges in AI today. So I'm really excited to hear you share about that. But I think to get us started, I'd love to just dive into your background, like walk us through your evolution as a professional woman in tech, your path to where you are today. We just love to hear your story.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire, for inviting me on your podcast. It's very weird to be on the other side of this. But yeah, it's a very cool experience. To start off, I just recently finished my PhD in data science, and I'm a data scientist by training. And I have been in the world of AI since I think the first course I took in natural language processing during my master's back in 2014. Since then, never left this realm, and I've been enjoying every bit of it. And yeah, to talk about my evolution as a professional, my interest in the world of computers has been since the first time my father purchased a Windows desktop. And then to further inspire, my sister went to pursue her education in computer science. And
Mm.
that's how I knew I wanted to be in computer science. Then, one degree after the other, plus working at a startup, I realized the importance of education and how much potential there is in STEM. And that's when I decided to study even further and then pursue my PhD. That was like a thought that lingered in my mind for quite some time.
Oh, wow.
And once I started researching, I realized that I actually enjoy the research part. And I can tell you, it was not an easy path, and I did not always know what I really wanted to do besides being in computer science, and then making my way to be in the subfields of artificial intelligence. And I I can assure you, I had many academic struggles. If I start to tell you, it will take like more than an hour of this recording, so I'll spare it. But like trying to find what my calling is and what I really enjoy, it took me a while to figure out. And however, amidst all of this, I met some wonderful people who taught me a great deal of not just like the technical or studies or anything, but just, how to be a professional or just life in general. And my own failures, like they have been like the biggest teachers of all time.
I
And
love to hear that. That's a resilience to failure. Like I actually like seek out failures because you learn so much from just experiencing that.
exactly,
Sticks in your mind
exactly.
better. If everything was easy, I probably wouldn't remember the lessons I was
Yeah.
learning.
And
Yeah,
if it was everything was easy, it was probably not really worth it.
right.
Um, yeah. And I can proudly say that I'm glad to see where I am now. I have much more clarity into what I want to do
Mhm.
now or in the next few years. And yeah, that's how my evolution has been so far.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. It's similar actually because my dad is in computer science. So I
Mhm.
was always aware of that as a career path. And then my younger sister is also taking that career path as well, like AI, computer science. So very cool to kind of see those similarities there.
Nice.
You mentioned that you loved research. I wanted to actually hear a little bit more about that because that's such an incredible skill, that scientific mindset that's so valuable in AI today because we're working on so much kind of new technology and tools. So I'd love to kind of hear like what about the research you love and if you have any like tips and tricks to share with us around that.
Absolutely. I think so. My sister has done her PhD, and I have seen her evolution as well, and how, like, I used to ask her, like, what made you get into PhD? Like, why do you want to spend like 5 years of your life
Yeah.
committed to this one
Why are
thing?
you doing this?
Exactly. So, like through her answers and just like my own experience and seeing other people do research, what I really enjoyed like the thing about research is like you get deep into a particular topic of your interest and you get to learn about it. You read so many papers, articles, you talk to other people, you build your own experiments, you analyze few things. So, like getting deep into that and like that discipline of understanding or like finding your expertise in one topic. Like I tend to be a generalist per se.
Uh-huh.
I like to learn a bit of everything. but with through my research, I know that I got deep into my PhD research and I found out a great deal of information through it. And what it made me or what it helped me to become was more disciplined and like
Mm.
yeah, like if you ask me for tips or tricks, I would say that explore the internet. You have like so many options. You read some research papers, you write about it, and you think about it. So like that's how my professors also like taught me in the early stages of my PhD is that when you're reading a paper, think about what the problem is before getting into it. Think about by yourself, like, okay, what exactly is this question? How would I try to approach it? So, like, just putting that element, your own personal element into research while reading the paper, it just helps you become, or rather, um, get into that mindset of
Yeah.
what the authors were talking about.
Oh, that's really
So,
helpful. Yeah, there's something I learned from a past job actually. Some really great advice that somebody gave to me. I've always been a generalist like you. So I have that kind of generalized skill set across like MLOps. Um, but there's also value in specialization. And I think even as a generalist, what I learned, the advice that I got was to really go deep in a few specific areas. Just to show that ability to go deep, if anything. I think there's
yeah,
value there, but also to kind of flex that kind of research and scientific mindset as well is really valuable. So even though like I'm a huge advocate for like the career path of being a generalist in AI, because there's just so much you can do with it, I think that
yeah,
ability to go deep is really valuable too.
yeah, yeah. It has pros and cons for like both the, being a generalist, going too deep into something has pros and cons, but
It
you
does.
just have to choose what works for you.
It does. Yeah, I recommend people just kind of try both and see like what's
Yeah,
most rewarding. Yeah.
agreed, agreed.
That's great. All right, next question for you. I'd love to hear, really just looking to hear a little bit more about your career journey. So are there any kind of like learnings that you can share about? I know you mentioned that you had the story from one of your first jobs and experience with a first boss that really resonated with me when you told it to me. So I'd love to kind
Mhm.
of hear that story, in terms of just sharing a
Absolutely.
learning here from your career path. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you ask me about learnings, I have so many.
Yeah.
However, if
Share
I
as many
want
as
to
you want. That's what this space is.
exactly.
Yeah.
However, if I want to share like the top one, like you mentioned, I'd say celebrating your failures and not be afraid of them.
Mm.
So naturally, I try to be a perfectionist, which is such a pain to my existence, but it is how it is. It's
That's so
like,
hard. That's so common in AI, in math,
exactly.
in probably
Yeah.
PhD research too. Yeah.
And probably because there's so much competition, that might be
Mhm.
another reason. But in that process of being a perfectionist, I know myself that I could lose track of time while working on any given project. And
Yeah.
that's not the most ideal thing to do, especially if you have deadlines or
Sure.
if you're working
Right.
at a, if you're working at a startup, for
Yeah.
example. You don't want to be so, try to be perfect in it. And that's where like when my first job was at a very early stage startup of 5 or 6 people at the time, and my boss from that job, and he used to always tell me, Sonam, fail faster so we can filter out what doesn't work and learn from it.
I love that.
And this just stuck with me for life. It's such an interesting advice because I was always afraid of failing but having my failures celebrated is a whole another liberating feeling. And guess what? It actually led me to build things, create things, and learn much faster. And since then, it's like, yes, you feel disappointed if you fail, but then it's not going to stop you or it's not going to bring you down per se, because how my boss and my rest of my team at that company, we actually celebrated failures as a team, as an individual. It just changed my mindset. And I think that's what I tell people too. It's like, it's okay if you're failing. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of a proverb that I used to read when I was in school. Um, Failure is like a stepping stone to success. While growing up, I really didn't fully understand what it means. But then later, once I started learning from my failures, that's when I realized, like, oh, okay. Yeah, failures are not bad. They are there to teach you something.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That is like, it very much resonates with me. Like I have that same mindset, and I think that, um, people with that mindset, they really succeed in industry. Because it requires us to move fast. And I think it's so common to have like, I've heard the term analysis paralysis, and that like we want to be perfectionists. Like we're working on something, we want to be proud of what we're working on, we're striving for high quality. But in the end, it's a balance because we also have to ship something simple. We have to get it out the door. We got to get feedback from customers. This is kind of a balance there. And I learned exactly what you learned. Like just seek out the failures and don't be afraid of them. Like if you're trying to avoid failures, you're probably not learning as fast as you can. I think the
Mm-hmm.
key though is to like stop and analyze your failures and make sure like you
Yeah.
learn from them. But fail fast. That is such great advice. That will keep you from going down the perfectionist
Yeah.
kind of journey that so
Yeah.
many of us have. That's great.
Totally.
Well, cool. So let's talk about the engineering mindset. This is something that you and I
Mhm.
have talked about before. Many of us kind of share that engineering mindset where we like to focus on like fixing problems.
Yeah.
So I'm personally am always focused on like where are my areas to improve, what are my gaps, what are the new skills that I need to learn that I don't have. So as a result, we're kind of focusing on like our weaknesses and areas for improvement. Um, but how would you recommend that we also kind of focus on identifying our strengths? We've talked about like learning from failures, and kind of that engineering mindset where we're just fixing problems.
Yeah.
But how do you also focus on your strengths and how has this helped your career?
Engineering mindset, agreed. Fixing problems, like
Yeah.
that's in our core. And I used to see myself as a problem. That's the mindset I changed, and that was my first strength to identify that no, I'm not really a problem. I I'm trying to improve. And if you have that, I think that urge to keep improving and having that growth mindset, if you can cultivate that, and it took me a while to recognize that I actually have that mindset. And once I understood that, okay, having a growth mindset is actually helping me towards achieving what I want to achieve, that was step number one, or right, or rather, that's my one of the top strengths. And then feedback from other people, the people who whom you trust that they will give you the right feedback and won't sugarcoat, basically
Mm.
just learning from them or understanding what they think, that what are my strengths, even for weaknesses, that's totally fine. It's like, so getting that feedback from those people is really important. And um it so that feedback is what helped me the most. And like, another thing is that what skills have other people recognized in you, or what are they coming to you to ask from you, what kind of help are they asking?
Yeah.
So for instance, I know that I am pretty passionate about generative AI, or just being NLP, for example. And I don't want to stop learning. It's like I'm always curious about learning or something or the other. So just, I think what also helped me is like a little bit of self reflection,
Mhm.
like writing down that what did I do good in project A, project B, or just like in one job or during my academics. What did I do well? So I write it down.
Oh, I
What
love
were
that.
the weaknesses and how I overcome those? Because if you can overcome your weaknesses, I think that's also a strength.
Yes.
Um, so just like writing those down, listing it, listening to other people, what they give you as your feedback. And if you are working at in a company, how do you communicate with your manager, getting one-on-one feedback from them, talking to your teammates, just those kind of things usually what helps me or has helped me in the past.
Yeah, I mean, really what you're describing there is like a very mature growth mindset. And it's hard to have that, but like that's what it is. It's like not just focusing on the failures or the areas to grow, areas for improvement, but it's also leaning into those strengths. It's advice that I give to everyone on my team. Besides just highlighting the areas to grow and like new skills to learn, I also like encourage people like, what are your strengths? Look at your strengths. What are you getting good feedback on and lean
Yeah.
into that because it's so easy to like forget what those are because it's like, oh, I already figured that part out, right?
Yeah.
But that's like a natural strength, whatever it is. That's something that you can really use to like make your work shine. So it's important not to overlook those. And when you got the balance of the two, I feel like that's that true
Mhm.
growth mindset.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, growth mindset is just so important, whether it's
Yeah,
in your personal life or professional life. I think it helps overall.
just makes life more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Not staying static. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about imposter syndrome. Big topic
Ooh,
here. You mentioned that imposter syndrome has really been like an everyday struggle.
ooh,
That
yes.
is very common, specifically for like
Hmm.
women in STEM and tech. Talk us through like imposter syndrome, how it's impacted you, and also like if you have any tips and tricks for people who might be experiencing this as well.
Yeah. First of all, I didn't know that what I was facing was called imposter syndrome.
Ah, okay.
That was once I named it or found the name of what really it means or what I'm going through, it actually kind of helped. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I think once I found out the name, I started reading articles and like I met some other women who are in the leadership role or executive roles, even at my university. And I was part of one of the events that the STEM in Women or Women in STEM organization, which was my at my university, them and I, we actually organized an event just to talk about imposter syndrome and how to overcome it. Um, Never enough was something that I always thought throughout my academics and industry or job search or whatever. I always felt that, oh gosh, no matter how much I do, it's not going to be enough for anyone. And that kind of sucked. But then
Yeah.
I made my peace with it. I'm like, it's okay. I'm doing my best. And that's where the growth mindset actually helped me. Like, no,
Yeah.
I think I want to grow. I'm always eager to learn new things. I'm always curious about something or the other. So I'm actually helping my case. I have the like again the self-reflection of where was I in the last 10 years and now where I am, just evaluating that, going like, going back in like taking a time machine kind of thing to the past and then coming back to the present. It's like it helped.
That
Like,
is so
no, I
helpful. Like
have
looking at how far you came, it is so helpful.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and also like for me, it also comes a little bit of a cultural influence,
Hmm.
like, as a woman, okay, I need to know this and I need to know that, and the underrepresentation of women in STEM, that is also a part of it. But then personally, I think it was that never enough attitude that I needed to change. And I would thank some of my very close mentors and professors who helped me see through that. No, you are capable more than you realize. Focus on that. Focus on what we are telling you as your feedback, as a feedback
Yeah.
for you. So, like those kind of things, and just talking to the right people and knowing that no, you can do it, just having that attitude, I think it just helped me move further. I won't say that imposter syndrome is gone from forever from my body. Just it does sneak in from time to time, but now the difference is that I can have a control. I can control that, and I can talk myself out of it.
That's great.
Initially, I used to pause my growth or my learning because I would feel that, oh crap, I don't know this. I don't know how to solve it. And I don't know who I was trying to prove. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't have to prove to anybody else. I just have to prove to myself. And I
Right?
did that. And I continue to do that. So I think I'm okay. As long as I am learning
Yeah.
and, finding ways to improve myself, I think that's good enough.
100%.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and people will see. Whoever can see your strength, they will see. And whoever cannot see, well, that's okay.
Yeah, you can't please everyone. That's very true.
Exactly. You
Yeah, I
cannot
think
please
it's
everyone.
like you find people that support you and then you've got some amazing like kind of strategies to
Yeah.
overcome imposter syndrome when you feel it. You mentioned it helped you to really learn the definition of imposter syndrome. How would you define it for anyone in the audience who maybe hasn't heard of this yet or maybe is experiencing it? Um, how would you define it?
I would I'll give you an example. I don't have like the technical definition in my mind, but what I and or how I interpreted it based on my personal experience is that when I was going through that syndrome or was struggling with it, basically, I used to think that the technical things that I am learning, or if I'm working on a project, I don't fully understand what those techniques are, or rather, I didn't have the self confidence that I actually understood it. And or oh, I would like before even getting into starting to work on the project, I would talk myself out of it, thinking that no, I don't think I can do it. So it's
Oh,
kind
so
of
kind
like
of letting it
intertwined with
intimidate you.
the yeah, it's intertwined with the self confidence as well. Um, but yeah, so like before starting. working on any starting to work on anything, I would, if you cannot, like, if you're stopping yourself thinking that no, I cannot do
Yeah.
it, or what will, if I share it with anybody else, they might not think that I'm capable of it. So it's like those were the things that I used to feel. And I'm like,
Right.
no, no, no. Yeah. So those are like some of the pointers that you can look for if you're not aware that you're going through the syndrome. It's like, don't do it. It's okay. Just
Yeah.
keep doing it. Don't, like, my mom always tells me, even without actually knowing what imposter syndrome, she'll always advise my sister and I, is like, do your thing, do your task. Don't think about the outcome. The outcome is not in your control. Doing something is in your control. So just focus on that.
Yeah.
So forget the outcome. Just do your thing.
I like that. Just do your
Either
thing.
you'll pass or you'll fail, but you'll
Yeah.
learn. So that's how she would advise. And I think to overcome or deal with imposter syndrome, I think that advice actually helps.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I see the impacts of imposter syndrome is it will force people to work towards perfectionism because if you don't feel like
Yes.
your work is good enough, it's like, okay, I'm
Yep.
going to work really hard to make this perfect. And then it'll prevent us from sharing our work when we should, or completing a project when it should be done.
Yep.
We'll over engineer it sometimes. And then I also notice it prevents people from speaking up in meetings. And this is a huge
Yes.
loss to the impact that like
Hmm.
diverse um, uh, teams can have. If we have imposter syndrome, I notice that like maybe we'll have like an amazing idea in a meeting, but we'll like second guess ourselves and think like, oh, but it's already obvious, like everyone's already thinking it or whatever, and like not speak up and share it.
Yeah.
And when that happens, we lose such important voices because you'd be so surprised how important some of those ideas are, even if they seem simple to us. Like we only have our own perspective, other people in the room coming from very different backgrounds, very different ideas to share there. So even if it seems like a simple idea or like not quite right, it's so important to like speak up and share it. Because it doesn't have to be perfect. We can then like refine the idea from there.
Yeah.
But I noticed that like it just blocks people from like speaking up. And ultimately that blocks like our ability to contribute value on the teams. If we're not speaking up, we're not gonna be seen as a contributor.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking up is important.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. We're going to switch to talk a little bit more about career path, like creative strategies for the job search.
Hmm.
That has kind of led you on this career path. But before we hop there, any general advice you would just give to women who are getting into STEM or getting into AI and tech?
General advice. Yeah. I would say explore the different fields in STEM, because in this time and age you have the internet, and as crazy or scary internet might be, it is just it's just a powerful instrument for you to explore variety of options. Get a formal education. You don't really have to go through the PhD unless you really want to, but get a formal education. It actually has its benefits.
Yeah,
And I'm a big proponent of education, and work on the projects, build something, and just please don't be afraid. There's no point. And connect with other people in your field. And other advice that I would give, find a mentor who can guide you and answer your questions. Doesn't have to be in your field, just in general, like professional mentor who can just
yeah,
help you grow as a profession, like be into this field. I think personally, I have experienced or benefited a huge amount of from finding a mentor and working with the mentor, and also like networking. It's a little bit going out of your comfort zone, especially if you're an introverted person. Trust me, I get it. But once you get into that zone, you find your people. Gosh, you're gonna learn so much. And it's like, like I attend these events, I learn from other people, just learning about their journey. It just inspires me a lot. And that's what I would advise. Like, just go and build something and explore, because internet is useful. You can explore many different options. So yeah, that's what I would advise anyone who want to be in STEM.
that's great advice. Networking is so important. That has really led to a lot of my career growth as well. And it's just like wonderful to have other perspectives because if you end up working like remote, you might only work with like a few people every day. And so
Yeah,
you only have that perspective. But if you go out to like community events, meet other people working in different areas, you're just continuing to like grow as a person because you're learning from like different perspectives, which is just amazing.
exactly.
That power
Exactly.
of network is so great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about your career pivot. You're moving from data science to developer relations. Tell us a little bit more about like developer relations. What inspired you to take that path?
So, from what I understand about developer relation is you can think of that person as face of your company in public.
Yeah,
It's a very cross-functional team collaboration, not only in the company that you're working in, but also you're communicating or you're in like you're working with the user community of your company's product, for instance. It has like so developer relations has many different directions that you can go to. You can be somebody who just creates technical content or demos of your product, or you can go give talks, organize events, host events rather, go talk in a conference, and or you can just work with the customers and communicate with your teams, and in the teams you're working with product engineering, marketing. So it's a lot of cross-functional team collaboration, and it's a very powerful role. And I think it is pretty new as well. Not many people are aware of what developer relations is, maybe because in the previously it was more into marketing, but now it's becoming like we need technical developer relations who
yeah, so
understand
you
the
get highly
technical
technical.
aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah, one time, 1 hour, of the day, you might be coding, using your new feature, writing or building a experiment, and the other hour you're going out and giving a talk. So it's like many different directions a person can take in this particular role. And why I switched, it just fits right with my personality. I like talking, so I thought, okay, I'll make that use of talkativeness to good
wonderful.
use. So, and I like writing as well. So, and
Mm,
for me, anything that I'm learning, I tend to write about it. And if I can share it, that's even better because that's how I'll know that I actually learned something.
yes.
So I think the technical content generation and organizing events and then giving talks, all those kind of things just resonated a lot with me. And having the data science training, that actually helped because I'm not going to lose my technical curiosity and technical background, which is why the developer advocate or developer relation is like that perfect combination of my interest personally speaking. So yeah, so that's why I pivoted. I'm like, no, I think I feel more. It's like I felt like at one point I had this epiphany. It's like, no, this is my calling. Like this
Yeah.
is what I want to do. And yeah, and I would definitely thank my sister for encouraging me to explore this. Initially, she suggested that maybe explore growth marketing.
Mm.
And then one thing led to another. Then I connected with so many developer advocates, especially the ones who were data scientists before, and then moved to this. If you ask them, they'll probably have similar opinion as mine. So yeah, this role is really interesting.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of utilizing some of your strengths there. So like leaning into the strengths, which I absolutely love to hear. And yeah, it's a role that I feel like people are not as aware of. Like I didn't know about it when I started my career as a data scientist, but it's like it's the perfect role for somebody who like wants to be more publicly visible, enjoys
Yeah,
kind of creating marketing content, writing, like you do blog posts, that kind of stuff. You can do that as a data scientist, but this actually like uses that skill set to kind of help build a company's brand, build their
yeah,
visibility. And the thing that is awesome about this role is like it is like you're saying highly technical. You're creating like tutorials, you're coding all the time. You have to deeply understand like the AI, the math, and that kind of stuff. So I feel like some people are afraid of it, like, oh, it might be a waste of your technical talents. It's absolutely not. Like
yeah.
you're just using that in a different way. It's very kind of exciting role.
And you're educating others, so I don't
You're
think that
educating,
would be
yeah.
a waste at all.
Yeah, that's really cool. Cool. Well, you are on the job market right now. You are job searching.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this before. It's a tough market right now. And you have come up with some pretty great like strategies for job searching, some creative strategies that are kind of building your kind of brand as you job search. Um, One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show is to just share your perspective and any strategies that you have learned with the audience, because this is something I think my audience is going through as well. A lot of people are job searching, looking for that next job in AI or the first job in AI. And it is a tough market right now. It's an exciting market. There's a lot of opportunity, but there's also layoffs. It's just chaotic. And I'm curious to hear like how you're navigating it, and any like creative strategies you can share with us.
Absolutely. So I have tried. So I would still say that I'm doing a trial and error experiment
Yeah.
as I go. I don't have like a particular approach to take when it comes to job search. Um, One thing that when people ask me this question, I advise is that you apply, whether it's through LinkedIn, through Indeed, or any other job portals. But then you also try to find who's hiring or who's in a similar role in that company and
Mm,
send them a brief message that involves what you have done, what you want to do, and why you're interested in that role, just so that that person, whoever reads your message, they know what you're really talking about. If you say that, hey, I came across your job role and I want to interview, I don't think that's going to work.
not enough.
And yeah, it's not enough.
Yeah.
So, and I also add to that is that don't expect a response. People are busy. It sucks. You don't get a response. Trust me, it sucks a lot, but don't expect it, because I used to expect that, oh, they'll reply because I reached out to them. I might stand out, but people are busy and they may get such messages, but then get creative, be creative in what you write and how you write it. And in parallel, build your profile. And as a data scientist or developer advocate, profile matters a lot. For
Yeah.
if you're looking just for a data scientist, having a GitHub profile really helps.
It really
Um,
does. I recommend that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and like, participating in the hackathons
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
doing some Kaggle projects or things like
Ways to get
that.
your code out there so that we don't have to
Exactly.
do an interview to see the code. We could just go to your GitHub or look at your
Yeah,
hackathon projects. Yeah. So
my
same
point
approach.
exact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like whatever role you're looking for a job as, just pivot your profile according to that. And yeah, applying on job portal becomes addictive. I can tell you from my experience, because I remember applying for exactly 100 jobs in a day. And I'm not even kidding. At one point, I used to have an Excel sheet of
Yeah.
all the companies that I've applied
Uh-huh.
and what were the job roles and what have I done differently for them. And after that, I just stopped. I'm like, no, I think I'm tired.
Uh,
I need to find another approach, because, and you also like, if you're trying approach A, you have to also monitor, like in the next few weeks, how much, what's the cadence or what's the return value that you're getting from that approach.
mhm.
If it's not working, move on to the next approach, because you cannot just keep continuing with the same approach
You're looking
because
at
it's
this in
not
a
getting you anywhere.
data
Yeah,
driven.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to put your data mindset right there. It's like, no, keep monitoring what's working.
Yes.
Do some A/B testing on that
Do some
if
A/B
if that
testing.
works.
We'll explore, exploit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the high volume resume. So this, I think it depends on the stage in your career. For my first few jobs out of college, I did what you're doing. I spent time sending out like many applications. I started slow, like a few targeted, whatever. And then I
Uh-huh.
just started like a little bit of like a batch and blast, like on LinkedIn all the time, just sending in my resume. And I actually do recommend that, specifically for like early career, because you never know what is going to resonate with people. It is a tough
Exactly.
market. It's not
Hmm.
wasteful. You're not wasting anybody's time. You're putting your resume in the right stacks and it'll stand out where it needs to stand out. And the thing
Exactly.
is it will open doors that you probably didn't even think of. Like if you take like more of a targeted job
Yeah.
search, you like maybe just think of the companies that you're familiar with and you go there
Yeah.
and you deeply research them and apply. But when I did this, just like, oh, I send out like hundreds of applications, I ended up applying for stuff that like I never would have normally found or thought about. And they were incredible learning opportunities. Even if you just get like a phone screen with
Yeah.
somebody at a company that you've never thought of and don't know what they do, it's so cool to meet those people and see what they're building, even if
Yep.
you don't end up being a fit. So I do definitely recommend that. And like, don't get discouraged if you're not getting responses. I think like,
Yeah.
I don't know what your percentage was, but like back when I did this, it was a few years ago, but maybe like 2 to 5% was actually getting a
It's
response. Yeah.
same
Okay.
story. Even now, it's like right now, given my the stage I am in my career, the only difference is that I have learned how to network
Mhm.
and make use of that network.
Right.
Because I have been advised by many different people that don't just apply. You reach out, you talk to them, you go
Yeah.
to the
Figure out
events.
who the manager, the hiring manager.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like go talk to people and just be out there. Join different online forums. Like, there are so many communities out there. They have jobs channeled separately. Post it. Post about yourself there, but be brief about it. Be strategic. Don't just post blah, but write something creative that is actually to the point and it makes sense. So yeah, that's what I think has worked for me so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's validating because it's definitely advice that I give to people as well.
Yeah,
I
me
think it's
too. I mean,
effective.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just be as patient as you can.
Yeah.
It's tough. I realize that I resonate with it and I empathize with people who are in this job market, especially for those people like me who wants a visa.
Mm,
Trust me, I'm there with you. Stay strong. You'll find something.
yeah, we're rooting for you. It is a tough market, but I think that it's also exciting. Like there's a lot of new companies around AI right now, so lots of new opportunity coming up. I think it'll take a while for the industry to kind of reach equilibrium where we kind of
Hmm.
know what the job market looks like going forward. Right now, it's chaotic, so I think it just
It's
takes a little bit
chaotic.
of resilience. But yeah.
Yes.
Any other creative strategies? What are some things that you've learned that really
Mhm.
work with the job search? How are you landing interviews? What tips and tricks
So
can you give us?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know that, for me, I don't like interviews.
Oh,
Like
really?
oh my God, goodness. Especially those timed coding tests. Like I
Those are
have
the
been
most
so,
stressful. I don't
yeah,
think
they are
anyone loves those. I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody does, but if somebody's watching me code, I get so nervous. Like if you don't watch me, I can code,
exactly.
but when they're
Yeah.
watching, it's,
Like, no, stop doing that. And then the moment I see like a timer, I'm like, even if I know the code, I might not be able to write the code. Uh, or even if it is, if it's like a general conversation like you and I are having one right now, and if you start talking or discussing technical questions, I'll be happy to talk about it.
oh, it's
But
more
the
natural.
moment I think yeah, it's more natural. The
Yeah.
moment it's like a time thing or it's like a very formal interview and I know that that person is judging me, I don't know what gets into me that my nerves are on fire.
Oh, this
But
is,
the one
yeah.
Exactly. But the one thing I found, like recently, I found this technique that actually helps me stay calm is that whether it's an interview or I don't know, something that I'm very nervous about, like a presentation. Like, I'll give you most recent example is that I had my PhD defense last week and I was nervous. And it's not like I
Yeah.
haven't given presentations before, but I still had that fear.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, what do I do to change my, like, get out of it? I danced. I danced for 15 minutes right before the
I love that.
presentation. Um, just like 15 minutes, put on like the most party song that you can like have the best beats and
Yes.
just dance. Just
Just
dance. And
dance.
oh my gosh, it helped me so very much. And I was in such a happy mood and my adrenaline was rushing. And I'm like, cool, okay, I feel energized. I'm feeling that, okay, I can conquer this. It's just a
Yeah.
presentation. I know what I'm talking about. It just
Yes.
quickly switched my mindset and was like so magical that I'm like, huh, 15 minutes of dance can do this? That's pretty cool.
That is
Uh,
so cool. That is wonderful advice.
so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And
Yeah.
honestly, I have actually read about this in, I don't know, it was this organization called the Female Quotient. They give some advices around this, and I think that's where I read like, okay, dance a bit before you go for an important meeting or an interview or presentation. You'll see the change in how you
Yeah.
feel about yourself, and I can vouch for it from my
That
personal
is
experience now.
wonderful. I love that. So it makes me think of power posing. That's something I heard about where it's like even
Yes,
like the kind of
yeah,
taking
or
a
like that.
space.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I heard people would do that before like important presentations or something like that. But this is almost like taking it like a step further. Like you are getting that body movement and everything, but you're also, I know music affects my moods. Like if I'm listening
Yeah,
to like sad
same
music,
here.
like I'm gonna be sad. It just has that effect. If I'm listening to
Yeah,
happy music, you feel more confident. And I mean, like with interviews, I do feel like you know your stuff. It's not about knowing the stuff once you've like studied and prepared properly. It's more about the mindset you go in with it. And you could like
yeah,
know all the technical details, but if you're nervous, it shines through. It might look like a skill gap if you're not able to communicate well because you're nervous. Things like that like really affect it. Like your mindset does affect the interview, unfortunately. So dance, power pose, just think positive, be confident. It really does make
Yeah.
a
Do
difference.
whatever you can to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for talking us through that. Those are all the questions that I wanted to talk through today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience or anything that I might have skipped or forgot?
Well, I think we covered lots of different bases. The last thing that I will do or say is don't think too much before working on something. Just
Hmm.
do it. You
Yeah,
can perfect it later. Just start. Just start.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just dive
that's
in.
all.
Don't be nervous about it. I feel like.
Yeah, just start. Yep.
Yeah, that's great advice. One thing that really resonates too is like when I was intimidated to start projects, I would just sit down and tell myself, this is easy. Even though it wasn't. I remember like chemistry was like so hard. I didn't do well in that class. It just wasn't the way my brain works. But I had
Yeah,
to get through it to graduate. So I would just like sit down and tell myself, this is easy before I started studying. And just like having that mindset kind of helped it click. So yeah, there's a
makes
lot of like
sense.
psychology to this kind of stuff.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Like really, really wonderful to hear how you're approaching things and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Claire. You had some really good questions. Thanks for inviting me over your podcast.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.